It looked like a bank vault with headlights. If you love stories about power, engineering, and the silent wars between outlaws and the law, make sure to follow, because this one rewrote the rulebook of American crime Chicago. February 17, 1933, 11:45 a.m., snow layered the streets in gray slush. At the corner of Michigan Avenue and 35th, a black 1928 Cadillac town sedan idled behind a delivery truck. To most, it was just another luxury car. To the Bureau of Investigation, it was a fortress on wheels, a ghost from Al Capone's empire that refused to die. Inside the car sat Fred Barker, jaw tight, cigarette burning between his fingers. Beside him, Alvin Karpis checked his Thompson submachine gun, the magazine drum resting on his lap. In the back, a canvas bag stuffed with cash from a St. Paul payroll job. The car wasn't theirs, not originally. It had belonged to Capone himself, confiscated by the Treasury the previous year. But word on the street was that the Barker boys had gotten their hands on it, through a crooked auction or a friend in the Bureau's storage yard. No one ever confirmed how the Cadillac was unlike anything the Midwest had seen. One sunk a 4-inch steel plating under the body, bullet-resistant glass nearly an inch thick, run-flat tires and hidden compartments for rifles and cash. When Capone ordered it, he paid more than $30,000, a fortune in Depression-era America. Its color, deep forest green, matched the uniforms of the Chicago police, and so did its siren and red light. With it, Capone could roll through a blockade and no one would stop him. By early 1933, his empire was crumbling. He was locked up in Atlanta, serving an 11-year sentence for tax evasion. But his car, his symbol of power, was about to earn a second life. An unmarked sedan pulled up across the street. Two bureau men, Special Agents Clarence Hurt and W.C.E. Weems, watched through binoculars. The Cadillac had been traced to a garage near Minneapolis, then to Chicago. Rumor said it was headed to deliver counterfeit bonds to a contact named Red Jennings. At 11:50, the Cadillac rolled north toward Roosevelt Road. The agents followed at a distance, their Ford V8 engine humming. Over the radio, Weems reported, "Target vehicle, black Cadillac, government-plated, moving northbound, unknown occupants, possibly armed." The Bureau had tried to stop the Barkers before, as in Kansas City, in Tulsa, but they always vanished into the countryside. Now they had a chance. Orders were simple: intercept and capture alive. At 12:03 p.m., the Cadillac turned onto a bridge over the South Branch River. Traffic was light. Hurt gunned the Ford forward and signaled a stop. The Cadillac didn't brake. Instead, Barker leaned out the window, tossed his cigarette, and shouted something lost in the wind. Then the car lunged forward. The first shot cracked through the February air, a .38 revolver slug from Hurt's window. It struck the Cadillac's rear glass and flattened, leaving a silver bruise. Karpis looked back, smirked, and shouted, "They can't punch through." The Cadillac's V8 roared. Under its hood, a 341 cubic inch engine, the same used in high-performance touring models. Reinforced suspension absorbed the bumps as it tore across the bridge at 60 miles per hour. The Bureau car lagged, its radiator steaming. Eyewitnesses later said it looked like a tank racing through downtown Chicago. Bullets sparked off the trunk and roof, harmless. Pedestrians ducked into alleys. One streetcar operator swore the Cadillac's windows were tinted black, though in truth they were just double-layered glass that refracted the light. The chase stretched north for 15 minutes, through rush-hour traffic. Near Union Station, a third car joined, a local police unit under Sergeant Charles Winters. He'd been told to assist federal agents in pursuit of armed suspects. Winters pulled alongside, leveled a shotgun, and fired at the rear tires. The pellets scattered. The Cadillac didn't even wobble. Inside, Barker laughed. "You could park this thing in a war zone," he said. Karpis reloaded his drum and cracked the window. The Tommy gun chattered, stitching holes across the agent's windshield. Hurt's car veered left, shattered glass slicing his cheek. At 12:28 p.m., the Cadillac exited toward the West Side Industrial District. Ahead lay open road and rail yards, perfect ground for escape. Winters tried to block the lane, but the Cadillac's front bumper smashed the Ford's fender aside. Its armored grille barely dented. The officers spun out, and the gang disappeared into the smoke of the freight depot. By the time reinforcements arrived, the car was gone. All that remained were .45 caliber casings on the asphalt and a burned rubber trail leading west toward Cicero, Capone's old territory. That night, newspapers called it the car that couldn't be killed. Reporters speculated the gang had driven it into Wisconsin or stripped it for parts. The Bureau issued bulletins to all state police units. Be on the lookout for 1928 Cadillac town sedan, dark green, bearing reinforced armor, possible association with Karpis or Barker Gang. Consider armed and dangerous. The car's design traced back to Chicago's General Motors building, where Capone's men had commissioned it from Fisher Body Works in 1928. The armor was custom fit, not military grade, but strong enough to resist small arms fire. The windows, built by Triplex Safety Glass Company, were the same used in banks and treasury transports. Even the tires were reinforced with inner steel bands. The car weighed nearly 3 tons. When federal agents impounded it after Capone's arrest in 1931, they didn't scrap it. Instead, it was reassigned to the Treasury Department's motor pool, sometimes used to transport visiting dignitaries. A photograph from 1932 shows President-elect Franklin D. Roosevelt riding in what appears to be Capone's Cadillac during a motorcade in Miami, the same day Giuseppe Zangara attempted to assassinate him. The bullet missed Roosevelt, but struck Chicago's Mayor Anton Cermak. Ironically, the armor that once protected a gangster saved a president-to-be. After the incident, the car was returned to Chicago for servicing. Somewhere between March and August 1932, it disappeared from the federal inventory. Internal memos mention vehicle reassigned to storage pending audit. No record after that. By early 1933, the Barker Karpis Gang had it. Federal Director J. Edgar Hoover took personal interest in the report. The idea that a stolen government car, formerly owned by Capone, was now being used by fugitives humiliated the Bureau. Orders went out to recover it at all costs. Field offices in Illinois, Missouri, and Wisconsin coordinated roadblocks. Agents studied blueprints of the Cadillac, noting weak points around the radiator and door seams. The Bureau's technical division analyzed bullets retrieved from the scene. None penetrated the outer shell. The report read, "Standard service rounds ineffective against vehicle armor. Recommend use of armor-piercing ammunition." By March, new Thompson drums loaded with steel core 45 ACP were distributed to field agents, a direct result of this chase. On March 9, 1933, a truck driver outside Kenosha, Wisconsin, reported a large green car parked behind a barn. Locals said 2 men paid cash for fuel and food, always after midnight. When deputies arrived the next day, the barn was empty. On the floor, tire impressions, 9-inch treads, matched the Cadillac. Inside a crate, they found a spare windshield, labeled Triplex Safety Glass number 47. That was the last physical trace until the summer. In July 1933, Alvin Karpis led a bank robbery in Brainerd, Minnesota. Witnesses described a heavy sedan used as a getaway car, its windows dark like mirrors. Pursuing officers fired repeatedly, but failed to stop it. 1 bullet ricocheted and injured a bystander, proof the glass was armored. The Bureau connected the dots. Capone's Cadillac was back. The car's specifications circulated internally. Make Cadillac V8 town sedan, model 1928 armor, 1 4-inch steel plates, doors, roof, and floor windows, 1-inch laminated safety glass weight, 7,000 pounds top speed, Uru 90 Manitoid unarmored, 75 MIXI armored features, drop-down steel shutters, bulletproof radiator grille, police siren, concealed compartments, rear gun port. The Bureau's memo noted, the car's armor adds 3,000 lbs to gross weight. Performance remains high due to superior Cadillac engine. Agents dubbed it the Iron Deuce. In internal slang, if you see the Iron Deuce, don't bother shooting, call for a roadblock. By autumn 1933, newspapers linked the car to at least 4 robberies across Minnesota and Wisconsin. Each time the same detail appeared, a black or dark green sedan that absorbed gunfire and vanished. Hoover ordered regional chiefs to investigate internal leaks. The Cadillac's disappearance from government custody was now a political issue. Treasury officials denied negligence. The Bureau blamed clerical error. Meanwhile, the Barker Karpis Gang expanded. More robberies, kidnappings, and the beginnings of what would later be known as the Public Enemy era. The armored Cadillac had become both a weapon and a legend, a relic of Capone's fall, fueling the next generation of outlaws. In October 1933, a night watchman at a warehouse near Duluth reported a strange car entering the loading bay. Two men carried crates stamped machine parts. When deputies arrived, they found tire marks and 45 ACP casings fired, not stored. The Bureau compiled a pattern. The car appeared every few months, always after major robberies, always near rail lines. Hoover called it a mobile arsenal. For the press, he used a simpler line: "The gang has an armored car but no armored future." But he was wrong. For now, the car kept winning. In the underworld, mechanics whispered about it. John "Doc" Barker bragged that the Cadillac could drive through hell and come out smiling. Criminals began experimenting with makeshift armor, boilerplate, sandbags, even cement. Auto shops in St. Paul reported unusual orders for steel sheets and cut glass. The FBI traced those orders, but couldn't prove connection. The chase for the armored Cadillac had triggered an arms race on America's highways, a battle between horsepower and bullet velocity. March 1934. The Midwest was tightening under a new war, not between nations, but between the Bureau and the men who refused to kneel. The Barker Karpis Gang had become public enemy number one. In less than a year, they'd robbed 6 banks, derailed 2 prison transports, and kidnapped a Minnesota banker for a $100,000 ransom. At nearly every scene, witnesses reported the same machine, a black Cadillac that shrugged off bullets. At Bureau headquarters, Washington, D.C., a typed memorandum circulated among supervisors. Header: Subject: Cadillac Armored Serial Number 8L7081. The document summarized a security failure. The car had been stored in a federal garage on South Michigan Avenue under Treasury supervision. The storage attendant, Henry McElroy, had vanished in late 1932. Later investigation revealed he'd been bribed $500 cash to release the Cadillac under a forged requisition order bearing a real agent's signature. The car was never officially reported missing. The Bureau learned of its theft only after the Chicago chase. The internal report concluded, vehicle believed in operational use by Barker Karpis Group. Immediate recovery essential. Hoover's handwritten note in the margin read, public embarrassment. Handle quietly. June 1934, Quantico Range, Virginia. Agents lined up beside a confiscated sedan fitted with replica plating modeled on Capone's car. At 50 yards, a Thompson submachine gun fired a burst of steel core 45 ACP, sparks, dense, no penetration. Then came 30-06 Springfield armor-piercing rounds. They punched through at close range. Result: the Bureau authorized limited issuance of M1 rifles for field teams assigned to capture the gang. It was the first time federal agents formally carried rifles instead of pistols in pursuit of criminals. Hoover told reporters only, "Our men will meet the enemy on equal terms." July 20th, 1934. The First National Bank of Brainerd robbery had yielded $32,000. The Cadillac was spotted again 2 nights later outside a diner on University Avenue. St. Paul agents in plain clothes, led by Special Agent Ralph Wagner, took positions across the street. The car sat idling. 2 men inside. A third entered carrying a paper sack, cash wrappers visible through the top. Wagner gave the order. They moved in. As soon as the first man reached the curb, the Cadillac siren wailed. Its headlights flashed red, Capone's old police trick, and the driver floored the pedal. Tires screeched, smoke rose, and the sedan burst through the intersection. Agents opened fire. Bullets pinged off the fenders like hail. 1 round pierced the radiator vent. Steam erupted. Still, the car gained speed and vanished toward the North Bridge. Agents recovered a single clue: an empty triplex glass crate, used as a footrest in the rear. Interrogations of captured associates painted a clearer picture. Doc Barker managed logistics. Karpis handled safe-cracking and planning. The Cadillac served as their main ride, equipped with extra gasoline drums and concealed armor panels along the doors. A witness, Eddie Bentley, a mechanic from St. Paul, claimed he'd serviced the car once in late 1933. He described bolted steel plates behind the rear seat and a pivoting gun port on the trunk. His statement read, They could shoot from inside without opening the lid. Sounded like thunder. Bentley disappeared weeks later. No charges, no records. Summer 1934 was also the end of John Dillinger. After his death outside the Biograph Theater in Chicago, newspapers speculated the armored Cadillac might have been offered to Dillinger's crew before the Barkers took it. Bureau memos confirm informal contact between small-time car thieves in both gangs. One note from a St. Paul informant read, "Dillinger passed on the tank. Too heavy." The Bureau considered publishing photos of the Cadillac, but Hoover refused. "No need to advertise our failures," he said during a morning briefing. Instead, orders were to track gas station reports, premium fuel purchases made in cash, with heavy sedans late at night. By September 1934, the Barker Karpis Gang had shifted from robbery to kidnapping. Their target, wealthy executives who could pay quickly. The Cadillac transported victims between hideouts. The interior's thick glass muffled screams. Agents later learned that William Ham Jr., heir to Ham's brewery, had been driven for hours inside it while blindfolded. He told investigators afterward, "It smelled of oil and cigars." No one spoke. When they slammed the doors, it was like being locked in a bank vault. The ransom was paid. Ham survived. The Bureau traced part of the payment to St. Paul, again circling back to the armored sedan. Public pressure rose. The Chicago Tribune printed an exposé titled, "Capone's Car Back on the Streets." Treasury officials denied the claim. The Bureau issued no comment. Behind closed doors, Hoover authorized coordination with the Minnesota Highway Patrol, setting up roadside inspection teams disguised as maintenance crews. They used portable barriers of railroad ties wrapped in barbed wire, designed to puncture even reinforced tires. The plan depended on location intelligence, a tip on when the Cadillac would move. That came from an unlikely source, a petty bootlegger named Joseph Moran contacted agents in Duluth. He'd once fenced stolen whiskey for Doc Barker. Now facing a 5-year sentence, he offered information. They keep the big car at a farm outside Bemidji. They run it only for the big jobs. Last I saw, they changed plates twice. Government first, then Wisconsin tags. Agents verified parts of the story. The plates matched those of a car seen near a recent payroll robbery. Moran received partial immunity in exchange for the location. At 4 a.m., September 26, 1934, 30 federal agents surrounded a dairy farm west of Bemidji. Barn lights off, no sound. Thin-side straw piled high around a covered shape. When the tarp was pulled, it revealed only a stripped chassis, no engine, no armor. The Cadillac was gone. On a wall written in chalk, 2 slow boys. Weeks later, the same car appeared in Kansas City. Eyewitnesses reported a dark sedan leading a convoy of 2 trucks into the industrial district at dawn, October 3rd. Minutes later, the Stockyards Bank was robbed. The getaway lasted less than 3 minutes. Police fired at the escaping vehicles. Sparks lit the rear window. One officer estimated over 100 shots. None stopped it. Investigators collected shell casings, standard .38 specials, and found flattened lead fragments at the scene. The armored Cadillac had crossed state lines again. The Bureau classified it as mobile headquarters. Each robbery used the same pattern: precision, speed, no casualties. Recovered mechanic ledgers from a St. Paul garage provided further insight. The Cadillac underwent major modification mid-1934. Additions included replacement of stock engine with Cadillac, V16452Q in motor, reinforced transmission mounts, fuel tank relocated and shielded, steel reinforcement in running boards, likely to resist side fire, ventilated gun slits near rear fenders, estimated top speed after modifications, 82 mph. Despite armor weight, the Bureau's internal note concluded, this vehicle constitutes a unique tactical threat. Direct engagement not advised. In November 1934, the Bureau's training unit produced a short film titled Armored Vehicles in Criminal Use. It reenacted the Chicago pursuit using stock footage and a mock-up car. Agents studied methods to disable engines with rifle fire or road spikes. The film's closing frame showed a drawing of the Cadillac with red circles over weak points, radiator, tires, and windshield seams. Underneath, shoot for the joints. Copies circulated only inside field offices. One was later archived under code FT 1934-12, Scene 22. The Kansas ambush, December 21st, 1934. A bureau team under Agent Sam Cowley received intelligence that the Cadillac would travel along U.S. Route 69 toward Oklahoma, carrying gang members and cash from the Kansas City robbery. They set up outside Pitcher, Oklahoma, near a mining road lined with slag heaps. Just after 3 p.m., the black sedan appeared. No escort. Cowley's men opened fire with M1 rifles loaded with armor-piercing rounds. The first volley struck the hood. The second shattered the driver's window, finally penetrating. The car swerved, slowed, then accelerated again. 2 tires blew. Sparks showered from the rims. Yet the Cadillac forced its way off-road and disappeared behind an ore pile. When agents reached the site minutes later, they found oil trails but no car. Only empty shell casings and footprints leading into the trees. The Cadillac had escaped again. A witness claimed a flatbed truck left the area at dusk carrying a big dark car under tarps. License plate, Illinois dealer tag, untraceable. By January 1935, the Bureau had documented 9 confirmed appearances of the armored Cadillac in connection with robberies or sightings. None led to arrests. Each report carried the same line in summary: "Vehicle remains at large." Hoover grew furious. During a closed meeting, he told division chiefs, "We are chasing ghosts in armor. The next time you see that car, bring me bodies, not excuses." The agents nodded. They would soon get their chance. At the same time, the Bureau faced new public enemies, Clyde Barrow and Bonnie Parker, then Pretty Boy Floyd, both using heavy-duty Ford V8s for mobility. The armored Cadillac influenced them all. Barrow's own letter to Henry Ford that year praised the 8-cylinder speed and strength. In Washington, internal memos refer to this phenomenon as vehicular escalation. The Bureau's countermeasure: more powerful engines for pursuit cars, reinforced windshields, and the first experimental use of radio-equipped patrol vehicles. The war between crime and law had moved onto the highways. Winter blanketed the Midwest again. On New Year's Eve, agents in Chicago's Little Italy raided a warehouse after an informant claimed the Cadillac was inside, being refitted. They found crates of machine gun ammunition, counterfeit plates and tools, but no car. An oil stain marked the floor where one had recently stood. Pinned to a workbench was a newspaper clipping of Hoover's photo with a single typed note: "Still too slow." The armored Cadillac had become a symbol of defiance, of engineering, of the blurred line between power and protection. The Bureau would not stop until it was silenced. January 1935. The Midwest was locked in ice. Roads were quiet, skies gray, and the federal manhunt reached its peak. The Barker Karpis Gang had fractured. Half their safe houses were raided. 2 members killed in Kansas City. But the armored Cadillac was still missing, the ghost of Capone's empire, and the Bureau's greatest embarrassment. Hoover ordered every field office to prioritize its recovery. His telegram to St. Paul read simply, "Locate vehicle. Terminate gang. 2 further failures." January 6, 1935. Osceola, Florida. A telegram from the Tampa field office reached Washington. It contained one line: "Suspicious Cadillac sedan, dark green, stored at property leased under name Arthur Dunlop." Agents cross-checked the name. Dunlop was an alias for Fred Barker. The property was a 2-story lakeside house near Lake Weir, registered to Kate Ma Barker, matriarch of the gang. Surveillance confirmed multiple armed men, heavy luggage, and the unmistakable profile of a long, armored sedan parked beneath tarps near a boathouse. At 5:30 a.m. on January 8th, 17 agents led by Special Agent Earl Connolly surrounded the house. They carried Thompson guns, M1 rifles, and tear gas launchers, the most firepower the Bureau had ever assembled for a single raid. At 6:07 a.m., Connolly shouted through a loudspeaker, "Federal agents! Come out with your hands up." Inside, movement. A curtain shifted. Then gunfire erupted, short bursts from automatic weapons. Agents dove behind sandbags. The standoff began. The Cadillac remained under its tarp. Every time an agent tried to move closer, gunfire flared from an upstairs window. Connolly ordered tear gas. Canisters smashed through glass. Smoke poured out. For 5 hours, the firefight continued. Over 2,000 rounds were fired. Local deputies joined the perimeter. At 10:15 a.m., silence fell. Connolly ordered entry. Inside, agents found Ma Barker and Fred Barker, both dead. Dozens of bullet holes lined the walls. Outside, the Cadillac stood untouched, one rear tire flat, windows streaked with dust, the green paint faded almost black. It had never moved during the fight. Connolly's report read, "Armored Cadillac secured. Vehicle structurally intact. Interior contains modified rifle racks and reinforced panels consistent with Capone vehicle description." The Bureau had finally recovered its ghost. The Cadillac was towed to Jacksonville Field Headquarters. Under heavy guard, technicians stripped the body. Findings confirmed everything legend had promised. 1 4-inch steel plating across doors, floor, and firewall 2-inch laminated glass with manual sliding shutters. Secret compartments under rear seats, one containing a rusted Thompson gun. Serial filed off. Registration plates Illinois 1932, Minnesota 1933, and federal treasury tags hidden behind the bumper. A logbook found in the glove compartment listed dates and mileages. The last entry, KC Run Deck 21. The same day as the Peacher ambush, forensic tests proved the bullet marks matched Bureau-issued ammunition. The car that outran FBI bullets had ended its run in silence beside Lake Weir. January 10, 1935. Washington, D.C. Hoover held a press conference. Behind him stood photographs of the Barker hideout and the recovered Cadillac. He called it a fortress of crime on wheels. Reporters asked how a government vehicle had fallen into outlaw hands. Hoover's reply was measured. The criminal world inherits what it does not deserve. Today, it inherited nothing but its own destruction. He avoided all mention of the 1932 theft or the earlier Chicago chase. The official narrative stated only, "Recovered vehicle previously modified by known criminal organization." The Bureau's technical examination ran 50 pages. Dated February 1935, it catalogued every alteration. Weight, 7,660 lbs, fully loaded. Armor type, rolled steel. Manually fitted, glass type. Triplex, multi-layer laminated. Performance, top speed 78 minutes and push. Range 240 miles at modifications added post-1932. V16 engine transplant. Armored gas tank, exhaust rerouting gun ports, and a false trunk lid. Final note, vehicle demonstrates early adaptation of automotive armor for civilian criminal use. Countermeasures should prioritize mobility over penetration. That last line marked the birth of a new doctrine, federal pursuit cars with higher horsepower instead of heavier armor. After Lake Weir, Hoover reassigned several senior agents for oversight failures. Treasury officials quietly closed the audit on Capone's confiscated assets. The file on the Cadillac, serial No. A7081, was sealed and marked classified. Within weeks, the car vanished again, and this time into government custody. It was sent to Washington Motor Pool, then reportedly to Fort Belvoir for testing. No photographs from that period survive. An unsigned memo dated March 1935 reads, "Vehicle to be retained for experimental evaluation. No public display authorized." By spring 1935, the legend had already spread. Newspapers printed exaggerated stories, some claiming the Cadillac could resist dynamite, others that it had inspired foreign militaries. None were true, but the effect was real. Automobile manufacturers began quietly researching armored executive cars. By 1936, several firms offered protection packages for bankers and politicians. The U.S. Secret Service adopted similar upgrades for presidential limousines. Capone's design, once a criminal luxury, had reshaped official security policy. The rest of the gang scattered. Alvin Karpis fled north, moving between safe houses in Ohio and Michigan. He traveled by night, using stolen cars but never the Cadillac again. In 1936, after a 2-year hunt, the Bureau caught him in New Orleans. Hoover himself oversaw the arrest. When asked about the Cadillac, Karpis reportedly smiled and said, "That car did more work than half your agents." He was sentenced to life imprisonment. Doc Barker was killed in Alcatraz during an escape attempt 3 years. Later, the armored Cadillac had outlived them. All records show the car remained in federal possession until 1941. Requisition order signed by an Army officer transferred it to Aberdeen, Proving Ground, Maryland for armor evaluation. Beyond that, no trace exists. Some historians believe it was scrapped for steel during wartime recycling drives. Others claim it was quietly restored and stored at a private military collection. No confirmed photographs after 1935 survive, only one bureau image showing bullet scars across the hood. In the archives, its classification tag reads Item 54A Cadillac, 1928 origin, Chicago seizure. Technically, the armored Cadillac predated all wartime armored limousines. Its construction influenced both criminal and government designs, the bank messenger vans of 1937, the Secret Service's Cadillac 60 Special, and early Prohibition-era Treasury vehicles. Hoover later claimed, "We learned from the enemy." By 1940, Bureau manuals listed armor countermeasures, target diagrams, and pursuit formations, all derived from the lessons of the Cadillac that once outran their bullets. Decades later, fragments of its history resurfaced. In 1958, an automotive historian named Richard D. Langworth found reference to an armored Cadillac tested for federal ballistics in 1935. The serial number matched Capone's. In 1975, a car collector from Illinois purchased what he believed was the same vehicle, same body lines, same green paint under layers of black. Experts inspected it. Armor plating matched period methods, but lacked serial verification. The debate continues. To this day, multiple museums claim to house Capone's Cadillac. Only one, the Volo Auto Museum in Illinois, possesses certified documentation from Treasury archives linking its car to the 1931 impoundment. Whether it's the same that outran FBI bullets remains uncertain. In 1983, declassified bureau files revealed the full timeline. The original 1933 chase, the 1934 Midwest sightings, the Lake Weir recovery, all confirmed. The most telling document was Hoover's private note after the raid. "We captured the gang but lost the legend. The car will not be remembered for crime. It will be remembered for teaching us fear." It was never published in the press release. But among agents it became part of bureau lore, the day an outlaw's car forced the federal government to modernize. Today, historians consider the armored Cadillac the bridge between the gangster era and modern law enforcement. It marked the transition from revolvers and sedans to high-caliber rifles and pursuit vehicles. Its impact extended beyond crime, influencing military engineers studying urban armor and police agencies adopting heavier firepower. What began as Capone's private fortress became a prototype for all armored transport. Its myth lives in two extremes, the arrogance of criminals and the adaptation of authority. Every record ends the same way. January 8, 1935, Lake Weir, Florida. 2 bodies, 1 car, and the sound of gunfire echoing over still water. Agents posed beside the Cadillac for a final photograph. None smiled. The report number was stamped and filed. Case 2706, Barker Incident. When the car was hauled away on a flatbed, local children watched from a distance. One deputy recalled years later, it looked like they were burying a battleship. By nightfall, the house was demolished, the car gone. The case closed. The last surviving entry about the vehicle appears in a bureau ledger, dated July 17, 1941. One line only. Disposed, experimental vehicle, non-serviceable, no photographs, no explanations. After that, nothing. It had served both sides of the law, first as a symbol of defiance, then as a tool of progress. Within months, the blood was washed from the walls, the files stamped, and the world moved on. But somewhere between the legends and the archives, a truth remained. An armored Cadillac once outran FBI bullets in 1933, and for a brief moment, America learned that power could be built, not in the barrel of a gun but in the steel of a machine.